Hi, here we are discussing case study of White House versus Carlton Hotel. We are four-member in group. I'm Ranbir. I start with introduction. Corporation law is preventing the unwanted corruption that is occurred in the company. Moreover, it is important to have prevent the unnecessary and unwanted act occurred in the business which affect the company badly. This case study is focused on the corporation law and it affects the business organization. In this case, the appeal raised by the court of long-running aggression between the children of Miss Charlton McDonald White House and his wife, who is now expired. The main issue lie could be stated as allotment by the White House to the boss son, called B-class share of the company, was valid duty of responsibility. It was clearly mentioned that Mr. White House should be the permanent governing director of the company and hold all the power. At the time of claim allotment, Mr. and Mrs. White House, who was together living, were divorced and they are total 6 children, 2 sons and 4 daughters. After divorce, his daughters stay with her mother and sons stay with father. The company total segment into 3 classes A, B, C. The class first held Mr. House, B, Mrs. White House and third divided among the children. In this case, it can be said that the case was enlisted on the both side. The state has share allotted. The B class share of Mrs. White House would during any period of her survival to the Mr. White House to close up them. That approach missed the fact that voting permission attaching to the class A share would carry forward after the Mr. White House death and ignore any significance. In fact, that the commodity in evidence pointed the weak class share held by the Mrs. White House has been initially allotted to Mr. Wadley, who was benefactor of the company's contract of association. The trial court declared that claimed allotment by Mr. White House of B class share to his each son was confirmed. In case of ensuring the daughter and their husbands would not adopt practical command over the company on his death through the voting power, which might then commit to the B class share. And now the further step of this case study described by my friend Tenu.
Thanks Ravi for the introduction. Let's continue with the remaining part. Now we are going to discuss about the duties and responsibility breached and why duties are breached. The duty is manipulated to ensure that the power of a director are granted as a law, company constitution and company bylaw. Mr. Whitehouse was the supreme to allow shares invested in the board of directors, and the case clearly states that the purpose behind it was to manipulate the voting power of the shareholders. It is arguable that the problem may arise in which the voting power of an exciting shareholders for a group of shareholders. Mr. Whitehouse's purpose in allotting the B-class shares to his son was clear enough that he was not motivated but made a selfish decision to manipulate the voting power in favor of his son instead of his former wife. Based on the judgment of the full court of the company seek to uphold the majority opinion that there was a breach of beneficiary duty and the Act 59. Charles could not practice the power to allow shares until and unless the allotment, and assuming that Charles is the ultimate and to allot B-class shares among his son and treating himself as a supreme to decide exercise of a power was in breach of his beneficiary duty. In the ordinary case, the power to allow shares is granted for the motto of legalize the company to raise stock and an allotment of shares for different requirement. For example, for the reason of supporting control by shareholders friendly to directors is the breach of director beneficiary duty of the company. Remaining part, Xena will continue.
Thank you very much, Tinu. Myself Xena, and I'll be explaining, discussing and analyzing the court decisions and its reason in view of Corporation Act. In the incident of the respondent held by Charles, the provision of Act established the foremost positions. Charles McDonald will be considered as a permanent governing director of the company until he resigns or he dies. After him, permanent governing director continued to run the firm, allowing the same authorities and policies. As well, he may appoint other person to be the director of the company by setting up strict rules and regulations, as well as the parameter to restrict their powers. He may at any point without any pre-notice remove such director from the company as well. The rules applies to the other appointed directors, excluding the permanent governing directors. The evidence collected from the full court has two main reasons. The first main reason is according to the Art 59, allocating the shares in such manner failed the company. And the second main reason is the allotment were made for no valid purpose. Therefore, the allotment will breach and not void if the appellant's impotence were correct in those conclusion and consequences. Therefore, according to the company regulations, all new shares shall be offered in primary instance or premier to all to the amount of stock held by them in the class of shares to be issued. Thank you. Now my friend Kinjal will be explaining about the impact of decisions on operation of the company in Australia and the conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you, Xena, to describe about the tribunal decision and the reason for the decision in Corporation Act. Hello, I'm Kinjal, and today I am going to discuss about the impact of the decision on the operation of company in Australia. It is observed that the conviction of the patent is considered one of the limitation of decision making, and from the detailed perspective, it is the past decision making the judge take into consideration, indicating toward a framework that is bound quite a few times. It is one of the commonly observed phenomena in terms of decision making that point out loophole, as the case might not be similar, in other words may have a same area, never evident before that needs considerable about the attention to be a judge considering the fact of the occurrence. It can be justified that such a capability is accepted to put to one side cases in which it can be a convinced with both permissible and impermissible purpose. In such cases of practical consideration, competing purpose have restricted the law from treating the base existence of the impermissible purpose as enough to provide a voidable exercise of the beneficiary power to the distribute the shares. The beneficiary nature of the company board's power to allot shares. Australian law review, it is obtained that the query to be one of the considerable facing difficulty. The other cases might be given a preference for the benefit of the company. In other words, the causes started as others should necessarily be benefiting the company that may involve the contract over the ownerships and maintenance. Now we are move on the conclusion. This case study is based on the corporation law and effectiveness for the developing the business organization, and corporation law is help to the prevent the unwanted theft which is occurred in the company. In this case study, we have discussed on the effectiveness of the Corporation Act within the company. Thank you very much.